Hey there, folks. You're listening to WCB, the underground sound of Emerson College. How y'all doing today? Welcome to Technically Not Experts. I'm Elliot Kelton.
And I'm Daryn Snyderwind. And here at Technically Not Experts, we talk about our hyperfixations that we are so passionate about.
Screaming in my ear.
And explain to the other person who has no knowledge of it. Well, we are technically not experts. We are for all intents and purposes.
But not legally.
That means nothing. But, okay.
I watched Legally Blonde yesterday. I feel like I should be allowed to say, not legally.
I watched a movie about lawyers, so I know about legal things.
The movie about lawyers.
So, today I'm going to be presenting a topic, and that is, drumroll please, Sandersides!
Sandersides.
Now, what do you know about Sandersides, Elliot?
Okay, it's YouTube.
Yes.
It's Thomas Sanders.
Yes.
Not Bernie.
Yes, it's an important distinction.
Thomas Sanders is 30 years old.
Yes.
He has a bunch of imaginary people in his brain that are his emotions.
Sort of, yes.
There's Logan and Remus and Virgil and Liam and Niall. There's Patton and Oswald.
I don't think that, first of all, I don't think there's that many. Second.
I feel like there's like a lot, like a bunch. And then also like, they're all like him though at the same time.
Yes. So, okay. So let me explain to you.
And it's a web series.
It is a web series. Sandersides is a YouTube web series created by and starring Thomas Sanders, created in 2016 that is still running to this day. He also co-writes the series with his best friend, Joan. It follows I got no sleep. It follows a fictionalized version of Thomas and the four aspects of his one personality, personified into characters of their own.
So there's only 4.
There's 4 main ones, and then there's like more that we get introduced to over time. So
I feel like there's one named Janice.
There is one named Janice. Janice is introduced in season 2. So, but in season 1, there was originally just 4 of them.
Okay.
Together, Thomas and the various quote unquote sides of his personality analyze his inner conflicts and life dilemmas that get thrown his way and discuss the best solution to his given problem. There are currently 2 seasons of this series and a spin-off series called Sanders Asides, which are essentially side stories with our 5 main characters. They don't necessarily fit into the greater narrative of
So there's
Sandersides.
5 main characters.
Yes, there's Thomas.
And then the 4 boys?
The 4 boys. The 4 main
Liam,
sides.
Niall, Harry, Zane, and Louie.
Yes, exactly. Let's give a little rundown. Sorry, what?
Kendall, James,
Stop it!
and Logan.
This is not Big Time Rush, okay? So Thomas Sanders himself is the creator of Sandersides and main character Sandersides, but he's also a person. So Thomas Sanders himself is an ex-Viner and YouTuber known for his sketch comedy, vlogs with his eccentric group of friends, and making content about mental health, anti-racism, and the LGBTQ plus community. And also just like fun things.
Is he gay?
He is gay.
Okay.
He's one of my personal favorite YouTubers because he has this general friendliness about him and this welcoming community he's fostered over the years on his channel. Sandersides is one of my favorite things to watch when I'm having a really bad day because things generally work out for Thomas. Like he has like this moment at the end of each episode where he essentially has this monologue to the camera where he wraps up the lesson of the show and delivers it. And usually the end of the episode is pretty much like, you're gonna be okay. No matter what happens, no matter what problems you may face or dilemmas you may have, you will be okay. And it's a very reassuring show. Sometimes it leaves off on a little bit of a unsure note, like if it's a cliffhanger or if they're leaving room for more development for the characters. But generally, things work out for him, which I think is really reassuring. Even if he's like unsure of the right thing to do, there's always a life lesson.
Is it
very wholesome.
Is it like a Disney Channel type of thing?
He's very much inspired by Disney Channel. So yes, it's kind of like this very cheesy, like very It's not Steve Rogers. It's the other Rogers. Mr. Rogers. Kind of. Listen, okay, I got 2.5 hours sleep.
How did I not know you were talking about Mr. Rogers? It's like Steve Rogers, Captain America. Okay.
It's a very Mr. Rogers feel at the end of each episode.
I was trying to link Marvel with it, and I was so confused for a second.
To sort of put in perspective what his videos meant to me, I know I don't seem like the most wholesome figure. You probably don't think I am WECB, but
incorrect. We all stand Daryn. Nobody cancel Daryn. Daryn's incredible.
His videos, not just Standard Sides, but his videos in general, they help me come out as bisexual, and they help me get more involved in the LGBTQ plus community and understand my identity within the community, and it's helped me out through some pretty hard times. There's a series on the channel called Reasons to Smile, where he basically, like he and his friends compile these very like fun facts, very reassuring facts, and like jokes and whatever, and they put it all into a video. And there's a series of these videos where they talk about the good things that are happening in the world that's creating progress, or just cute things like, oh, look at this dog.
The positive news of the world.
Yeah, especially when our world is just so messed up. He even put one out in 2020 during the pandemic, and it was a very needed time. And I was very appreciative of that. So Standard Sides is definitely one of my favorite web series I've watched on YouTube, and I've seen quite a few. It's incredibly well written. It began as a series Thomas created to help him integrate into YouTube from Vine, moving his characters off of Vine, like the Prince character, his dad character, and his teacher character, and giving them a place on his YouTube channel.
So I never had a Vine. Was he like a big Vine person?
He was a pretty big Viner. He had like pretty similar content on his Vine that he had on YouTube, just like shorter. Like he would most of his stuff was sketch comedy, where he would like just have like these like funny situations that he and his friends would put on with skits.
Right.
And he would have various characters. He'd do various voices. He made a lot of connections with voice actors with in different like cartoon shows, animated shows. Because he's always like had an admiration for cartoons. He even has like, he knows all of the voice actors from Fairly Odd Parents and like
Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom.
Steven Universe.
Danny Phantom?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
He knows Butch Hartman.
Then you know what? we're gonna count it. Danny Phantom right there.
But yeah, he like was pretty well known, and also was very famous for his story times, where he would basically be like story time, and then like go up to strangers and basically narrate their life, and then they'd play along and be very funny.
Interesting.
So the quality of each episode of Standard Sides gets better every time. It's pretty well researched because they often deal with moral or creative dilemmas or with mental health. Season 1 is pretty tame. Pretty explorative when it comes to the lore of Standard Sides, and season 2 definitely leans into the morality of certain decisions Thomas has to make, whether or not Thomas is actually a good person or as good of a person that the sides think that he is, and further emphasizes the characterization of the sides and their own personal journeys, because the sides do get their own arcs, which I think is very fun because it's sort of lends to Thomas's character development when his aspects of his personality grow and change. So let's go into the lore of Standard Sides. And yes, there is lore.
Why is there lore? It's just him over and over again. It's a copy and paste of him.
Well, it's not him. There's different aspects of the sides are different parts of him, so they have their own personalities. And because it's all in his imagination, they have like a sort of a magic system.
A magic system?
They can do things that Thomas can't do because it's in his imagination.
Wait, they have magic and nobody told me?
Kind of. Okay, so Thomas's so here's the lore. Thomas's one personality is personified in these sides, and there are two different kinds of sides. There's the main or regular sides. I guess you can call them light sides, but they're just regular sides of his personality. And then the dark sides.
Like Star Wars.
Sure. I mean, it's named after Star Wars, but basically they're just the dark sides are the part of himself he likes to ignore, the darker parts of his mind that manifest as sort of villains or antagonists that appear in the series.
Star Wars.
Yes, it is possible that a side can go from a dark side to a quote unquote light side, but that usually entails him interacting with the main sides more and Thomas accepting that side of himself as being not all bad. Sides can appear as whatever they want to be, and while they usually manifest themselves as to look like Thomas, because it's all played by Thomas Sanders, they can look like anyone that they want or anything that they want.
So there's non-Thomas sides?
Well, no, they all look like Thomas, but they can make themselves look like whoever they want
or whatever they choose.
If they choose. Like, there's many instances, like here's some examples of the things that they turn themselves into. Usually the thing that they turn themselves into are Thomas's friends. In an episode they turn into puppets.
Ooh, I do love puppets.
I know you love puppets. So yeah, yes, there is an episode where they turn into puppets to help Thomas figure out a problem. But usually they turn into Thomas's friends. A very big one is Joan, because Joan, they're constantly around. They help Thomas film the show and like is there when Thomas is filming, and also co-writes the show. So Joan is usually the friend that appears the most.
Okay.
But Joan doesn't appear as Joan. Joan usually just appears as a side pretending to look like Joan.
Right.
The sides can also create objects out of thin air. None of them are real, obviously, because it's all of Thomas's head, but that's something that they're capable of doing. They can create gifts for each other, props for like whatever they're doing. They can even summon like a projection of a character or a projection of Thomas's friends.
Wait, they can summon projections of characters, and you're telling me that's not like Star Wars? Our 3PO.
It's not like a ghost. It's basically they can summon like the
circle dude literally had a ghost in his like.
Are you talking about R2-D2?
Yes.
That's not a ghost. That was like a message that was just had a picture. It's like sending a video message.
This is also a video message.
No,
basically.
They're creating essentially a prop that looks like one of his friends, and that they can control to do whatever they want. But it's not really Thomas's friend. It just looks like Thomas's friend. It's like a doll, but it looks like
Thomas's friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
To help them illustrate a point.
Interesting.
Sides can stretch their limbs.
No.
And are essentially invulnerable to harm since they're completely imaginary.
No.
So like there's a bit where they can stretch their arms out to high five each other because they're in certain parts of the room. And so they have a bit where they stretch their arms out. And Thomas gets really grossed out by this. He does not appreciate when they do this.
I mean, I would not appreciate it either.
He's like, that's really gross. Can you not do the stretchy arm thing?
Also, does that mean that they can choose what their height is and they all choose to be Thomas's height?
Yes.
Okay.
People often imagine them to look different from each other. Like they have their own little things that make them stand out. And there are things that make them stand out, like outfits and the way that he styles his hair. But other than that, they all look exactly like Thomas. They can teleport from Thomas's head to the living room that they all speak in. So Thomas usually speaks to all of the sides in his living room.
It's not in his head.
He's imagining all of this, but he's imagining it all happening in his living room. And so they can kind of appear out of his head and into the living room. And they usually indicate this by light sides or regular sides rising up and sinking down to like enter the world, and then they leave it. The dark sides usually just appear very suddenly and very unexpectedly, but sink down to leave very mysteriously. Although they can leave unexpectedly without sinking down. Remus is especially capable of this.
Remus Lupin.
Yes. Sides have...
I know things, guys.
He's not called Remus Lupin. He's just called Remus. So sides have quote-unquote rooms, or the parts of Thomas's mind in which they reside when they're not talking to Thomas in his living room.
So can they hang out with each other in his head?
It's insinuated that they do, but they have their own places to hang out, or they have their own places that they reside in Thomas's head. So Thomas can visit these rooms when he focuses really hard on the parts of his mind or personality each side represents. The only rooms that he has visited so far are Virgil's and Patton's. When he's there, the other sides are too. When he's there, the other sides are too. And they can be affected by another side's room if they're there for too long.
What?
For instance, when they visit Virgil's room, Virgil is Thomas's anxiety. So when all of the sides are in his room, they all begin to get more anxious and irritable the longer that they're there, because they're affected by the room that they're in, because it's the strongest hub of that side's personality, of that side's effect on Thomas. So like if they all stayed in
I don't even know the characters. Who are the characters?
I'm going to explain the characters in a minute. They're very important, so I'm getting there. Basically whatever room that they're in like heightens the way that they feel based on how that character affects Thomas.
Okay.
So
in my head, I'm just imagining like smell pheromones, or like, let me change the emotions here. No. I don't know why, but that's just how I'm seeing it, and it makes sense in my head. So
this brings us to their main ability, which is that they can affect Thomas's mood and behavior. If one of his sides is having a dilemma, it will affect Thomas. Say his creative side feels unappreciated. Thomas is going to be affected by that. He's going to then feel like his creativity is unappreciated because his creative side feels that way. There's one episode where his anxiety just kind of leaves because he thinks he's too much of a burden on Thomas, and this allows for Thomas to not feel worried about anything. Like, he becomes careless to the point of endangering himself and others. This allows for better characterization of the sides, because when he has an internal dilemma, it usually means something is off with one of his sides that Thomas and his other sides have to help with and help that problem solve. Yeah, help that side feel better.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned any of the names yet, and that is because that's a huge part of the lore. The sides' names slowly get revealed, partially because of as the narrative develops over time, that required them to have names. Like, originally they didn't have names. They were just kind of like, my logic, my morality, my creativity, my anxiety. But then they slowly developed names to create a narrative and to have like a lore surrounding the sides.
Right.
But also because names are incredibly personal to the sides. Usually when a side reveals their name to Thomas, it means that Thomas has gotten closer with that side, that they feel comfortable enough telling him what their name is. Their names also usually reveal something about their character or indicative of their character. Also, all the sides have their own outfits.
Yes, I didn't know that. Yes. And their own hairstyles, right?
Kind of. Like, they don't, like, he kind of just styles his hair a little bit differently, like the way he parts it with, like, his anxiety. He kind of just lets it hang over his face all shaggy like an emo boy. So they upgrade the outfits per season, and they help indicate who's who, since they're all played by Thomas.
Right.
So here are the characters. Thomas is essentially a fictionalized version of Thomas Sanders himself. He is friendly, very caring about his friends and family. He's Catholic, gay, and sometimes struggles with his confidence in his work and his selfishness. He wants to be good, but due to being a habitual warrior, worries he's not good enough. He is the one person in which all of the sides are combined to create. He has the ability to speak to the different aspects of his personality, which nobody else in the world seems to have except for him, which he usually does in his living room in order to solve his various dilemmas, and there are many. Logan is his logical side.
Is Logan named after Logan from Big Time Rush, who is the logical one?
No, I actually have what they're named after in my notes.
Logan's the genius. So they say in the first episode of Big Time Rush.
So Logan wears black glasses, a black polo shirt with a patch of a brain and glasses on it, and a blue striped tie. His name comes from Logos. It's like Logos, Ethos, and Pathos. And his character stems from Thomas's teacher character from Vine. Because he's Thomas's logical side, he represents Thomas's intelligence, knowledge, curiosity, efficiency, and rational thinking. He's kind of the source of exposition for Sanders' sides, where he explains various theories, concepts, and psychological phenomena to push their revelations forward. Logan is typically very level-headed and insightful, although he can at times come off as very abrasive, blunt, or stubborn when other sides try to prove him wrong, because he does not like to be wrong.
I like how they have like the strengths and weaknesses of each side.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just like all positives or all negatives.
Yeah, because there's not an all positive part of you. If you separate yourself into 4 parts, there's obviously going to be parts that are missing in each side.
Right.
He likes to be taken seriously and instills that quality into Thomas. With that, he is often on the side of order and conformity. He refuses to admit that he has feelings, even stating that he hasn't felt anything in his life, although nobody really believes him. He doesn't understand jokes or sarcasm all the time.
Oh, no.
He has like note cards that he like.
Wait, that's so cute.
He has note cards where he keeps like certain phrases like 5 by 5, which means I'm okay, which means you're okay. Like various idioms that he doesn't understand because it doesn't make any sense to him. Or like vocabulary that's like pretty hip and in that he's just like, what does that mean?
TTYL.
He can at times disregard Thomas's feelings and about things, and other times be the only person who can guide the sides to a solution on how to help Thomas with his feelings. He doesn't always understand how he feels, but he knows how to get the other sides on track when they're losing sight of the goal. When he gets frustrated with the group and feels they're incorrect about something, he has a tendency to yell, "Falsehood!" very loudly at people.
You scream that so loud.
I had to illustrate my point. He also is obsessed with Crofter's jam.
What's Crofter's jam?
It's a brand of jam.
Well, I assumed it was a brand of jam.
It's just a brand of jam.
It's just
it was a bit. It just was a bit.
It just went
he is
on?
obsessed with Crofters because Thomas has a liking for Crofters jam, which led hilariously to a collaboration with Thomas Sanders and Crofters to create an entire collection of jam named after the Sanders sides, Logan being the first flavor that they came out with. Logan Berry is what it's called.
Oh wait, that's really cute.
They have like a video announcing it where Logan totally loses his cool when he's presented this jar of Crofter's jam with his face on it. And he's just like, what? He's just passed out. He like eats it all in front of us.
That's
it's
adorable.
The best. Then there's Patton.
Mhm.
Patton is Thomas's morality. He wears the same glasses as Logan, like these black rectangular framed glasses, in a light blue polo shirt with a patch of a heart and glasses on it, with a little smile, and a gray cat hoodie tied around his neck like a preppy cardigan.
Isn't he like the dad character?
He is. His name comes from pathos, like Logan came from logos, and his nicknamed Dad, since he's based on Thomas's dad character from Vine. Being Thomas's moral side, he represents Thomas's sense of right and wrong, his desire to be caring, and essentially, he's Thomas's heart. Patton is incredibly emotional and lighthearted, making frequent dad jokes, and serves as kind of a parental dad-like figure to the group. He's kind and courteous, and he does not like swearing. While he's like a dad in a lot of ways, he's also incredibly childlike. He adores cartoons, fluffy animals, puppets, and is terribly afraid of spiders.
Yeah.
You're like relatable.
I mean, like, I'm not afraid of spiders, but like if I see a spider, I'm not gonna go fight it. Like
he sees a spider and he's just terribly, terribly afraid of them.
If I see a spider, I get Daryn.
I am the bug killer in this apartment.
I don't kill a thing. I'll maybe put it out into the window.
You don't touch it. Don't
won't
act
touch
like
it.
you touch it.
I won't touch it.
He holds on to all of Thomas's childhood memories and nostalgia. His room, which they visit in the show, is full of memorabilia from Thomas's past. He's a bit ditzy and clumsy and impulsive due to being the embodiment of all of Thomas's emotions. And I do mean all of Thomas's emotions.
Even like the anger.
In a way, yes. Patton is very easygoing and laid back, like a cool dad, but has a very hard time opening up about his negative feelings, such as his sadness. Um, Other sides see Patton as essentially an adorable cinnamon roll and feel the need to protect him as much as he wants to protect them because he sees them as basically his kids.
Right.
They look to him for moral guidance, but sometimes he just doesn't have all the answers, and that can stress him out. He's adorable, and also our roommate Oliver, who's listening right now, Patton is Oliver's favorite side.
Oliver, are you listening? They said yeah.
So then there's Roman.
Roman. So there's no Pathos Ethos logos.
There's no
that.
ethos now.
Yeah.
But there is pathos and logos. And I think that they did that on purpose because they're kind of the inverse of one another, which I will get to later. But
so what's Roman named after?
I'll get to that. So Roman is Thomas's romantic creativity.
Oh, of course.
He wears a prince suit with a red sash, golden tassels on his shoulder, front, and sleeves, and a patch on either sleeve of a sigil, which is of a castle and a sun. His name comes from the word romance and the sentiment behind romanticism, and is nicknamed Prince or Princey due to his origins as Thomas's prince character from Vine.
Right.
Roman is Thomas's fanciful, creative side, all of his dreams, hopes, and aspirations, as well as his ego, femininity, and romantic, passionate feelings. He is associated with Thomas's acting career, so he loves musical theater, singing, and dramatics, while still being quite feminine, like snap gay kind of femme.
never snap
that was
gay
the worst.
kind
Like,
of femme.
Yes, queen.
Yes.
Like that kind of.
Okay, mama.
Like he's definitely like the gayest part of Thomas. But he's still a prince. And he still like represents a kind of gentleman-like masculinity in Thomas. Like a desire to be like a tough. He's kind of like a jock, like a gay jock.
Like, does he want to be like a Prince Eric or like a Disney prince?
Like a very Disney prince type of character, just like also gay.
Right.
He's very cheerful, encouraging, and energetic, and unbelievably extra. Like Logan, since he's very passionate, can get a bit hot-headed at times, going on passionate tangents and has various outbursts in videos. He can't help but be very obvious about his feelings, not really hiding how he feels ever, being very open about his likes and dislikes. He's very vain.
I'm very vain too.
He's like, if you compliment him, he will easily join your side. He's flamboyant and is also a lot insecure.
I'm also very insecure.
He has a lot of knowledge about performing arts, history, languages, and in fact knows Spanish because it's a romantic language.
Interesting. Does he know French?
I don't think so.
But isn't that like...
I know it's the romantic language, but I think he's more interested in Spanish. Like Patton, he is naive, but not because he's necessarily optimistic, but because he's very idealistic. And to the point of kind of setting himself up for disappointment. He is absolutely fabulous and obsessed with Disney, Broadway, and getting Thomas a boyfriend.
You know, the main things about like Disney, Broadway, boyfriend.
Things that really encompass you.
DBB.
Then there is Virgil. Virgil is Thomas's anxiety.
He's the emo one.
Yes. Virgil wears a black hoodie with purple and black patches stitched onto it with an emblem of a storm cloud, and wears black eyeshadow under his eyes, and usually has his hair like kind of over his face like a emo fringe. His name comes from protector and relates to the word vigilant, and the character Virgil from Dante's Inferno, who assisted Dante out of the underworld.
Oh, I love Dante's Inferno.
You're a literature major. You kind of have to.
We might be talking about Dante later on.
He was introduced after the other three sides, initially as a villain to
the
series.
I think I saw that, yeah.
As he used to be a dark side. Virgil represents Thomas's anxiety, caution, and fight or flight reflex. He is his fear, edginess, and thus presents himself like an adorable emo boy. Adorable emo boy. I don't know what.
Adorable.
He's also a part of Thomas's reason, like Logan. but comes from a place of worry as opposed to logic. When we first meet Virgil in episode 3, he is an antagonist and remains one until the end of season 1. He presented himself as foreboding, pessimistic, and a little bit scary in order to push Thomas away from doing things that could get him hurt or let down in some way.
But he's just trying to help Thomas.
He really is. Over time, he realized he was being seen as the bad guy, which is not just something he realized he didn't really want to be. And that was causing a lot of harm in Thomas's life because he felt he was obstructing Thomas's life as opposed to helping him, and thus changed. At first, he tried to remove himself from Thomas entirely, as I mentioned earlier. But Thomas's acceptance of Virgil as not just his anxiety, but also his reasonable caution and care, made Virgil realize he didn't need to act all tough all the time. He genuinely cares for all the other sides and respects them all, and worries, as he is amped to do, for their well-being.
He's amped?
Empt. I believe that's a word,
Spell
right?
it for me.
E-M-P-T.
Empt. I've never heard it. I'm searching it up afterwards. We're gonna find out.
Empt, I'm pretty sure, just means that he is prone to do something like this. Are you
okay?
Don't look it up now.
Afterwards.
He worries for their well-being, the other side's well-being, and also for Thomas's friends' well-being, which is one of his main concerns. And he is my personal favorite little emo boy side. I love him so much. He is my favorite character. He is just amazing. I love him. So then there's Janus, his deceitful side.
Okay, here's what I know about Janus. Isn't he like a god?
No. Well, yeah. Janus, he's named after a god.
Isn't that like a two-faced god type of thing?
Yes. Janus wears a black bowler hat, a black and yellow coat with like a little cape.
Bee-themed.
Bright yellow gloves, and half of his face is snake-like with scales and a yellow serpentine eye. That is, of course, when he's not impersonating the other sides and taking on their likeness.
Trickster god.
He is. Janus's name comes from the Roman god of duality, transitions, doorways, and endings. He represents Thomas's dishonesty, often to himself and others, though this is a rarity. He doesn't lie a lot, but when he does, it's like a problem. He promotes self-preservation, distancing Thomas from the lies he tells, and his appearance indicates his two-facedness. He is one of the main antagonists of season 2, although has recently been tentatively let into the main group of sides, which some of the sides are incredibly against.
Which ones?
Virgil and Roman, especially. Patton is like, I guess we need you. I'm not that big of a fan of you, but I guess we need you. Logan seems relatively indifferent.
Okay.
Mostly because I have no idea what Logan thinks about the situation because they didn't tell us.
Why don't they tell us things?
Because he wasn't in that episode. He was only in that episode because Janus was pretending to be Logan in that episode.
Trickster god.
Yes. He is incredibly sarcastic, which is a thing with dark sides. They're usually very sarcastic.
I'm usually very sarcastic.
Same. He's also very manipulative through faux compliments and affection, and insults people without directly saying it. So he's very passive-aggressive. He is very knowledgeable, like Logan, but entirely so he can back up his arguments and sound more convincing, though his evidence is often really outdated, inaccurate, circumstantial, and is cherry-picked to make his arguments sound better, which is pretty,
manipulative.
Pretty deceitful of him. He is incredibly annoyed that people don't see him as a value to Thomas's well-being. He's quite flamboyant and dramatic like Roman, but is also very calculating and sly. He never, with one exception, appears as himself at the beginning of the conversation, but rather impersonates another side so he can get a word into the conversation without being biasedly shut down. He also makes a lot of puns, which is very funny.
It sounds like he has a lot of insecurities.
He is actually fairly confident. He's mad that people don't see his worth.
I guess, yeah. But I feel like hiding as someone else, there's an insecurity right there.
Perhaps. I haven't really seen it that way. I more so see it as a manipulation tactic.
I guess, yeah.
As a way of making people listen to you if you look like someone that they trust.
True, but like part of manipulation in the first place is like there's an insecurity in yourself, and you want to be able to control other things because you can't control yourself.
That's true. Maybe that's something that they'll explore more in the future. But Janice has been recently
very confident,
not redeemed, not confident, but seen as a more beneficial force for Thomas than maybe he or the other sides would like to admit. Because sometimes lying is good.
We're pro lying in this house.
Sometimes lying is not good, so you want to avoid it when you can.
We are medium lying in this house.
So then there's Remus.
Remus Lupin.
Just Remus.
Lupin.
He is the dark side of Thomas's creativity, or his intrusive creativity. He also is dressed like a prince, like Roman, but has a black prince suit with green trim.
Oh, that's cool.
With terrifying accents on it, such as teeth and a human eyeball.
Ooh.
His hair has a gray streak in it. He has a curly mustache and purpley bruise-like makeup around his eyes. He's also called the Duke. He was named after, his name, Remus, was after Romulus' brother, Remus, who Romulus killed when making the Roman Empire.
And there's that Roman,
yes.
And Virgil.
No, I'm not Virgil.
No, Virgil's part of it because Virgil was, for Dante's Inferno, Virgil was
Romulus was not in Dante's Inferno.
No, but Virgil was a Roman character.
A lot of these are I believe it's Greek.
Greek?
I believe Dante's Inferno is Greek because
I can't remember.
I believe so.
It's like Christian-y.
It's not. I don't.
I feel like it's a bit Christian-y.
I don't know.
Anyway,
but there's a lot of Roman Greek stuff that goes into this.
One of the two.
He's named after Remus, Romulus' brother, which is incredibly intentional because Remus is Roman's twin. He is a dark side, the dark side to Thomas's creativity. He's inappropriate, reckless in words and behavior, and craves attention. This split in his creativity occurred when he was raised to believe that bad, unpleasant thoughts were inherently sinful, so he pushed them away, thus leading to the creation of Remus and Roman as opposed to them being combined. They're now separated because he sees his creativity as good and bad. It also stems from his religious Catholic guilt and his intrusive thoughts, which Remus usually manifests as intrusive thoughts. He is incredibly chaotic and demented, often very violent with the other sides due to how unpredictable he is. Like in the one episode that he's in, he throws...
He's only in one episode?
Yes, because he joined the series in a very recent episode, like one of the... I think like the second or third last episode or most recent episode. So he was just introduced to the canon. And he was incredibly violent in that episode. It's one of my favorites. But he like...
What's that say about you?
He like knocks out Logan's teeth. He throws a ninja star at him.
But they're not real.
It's not real. They're impervious to harm, which makes everything that he's doing less threatening, but it's still scary to look at when you're Thomas and you just meet this character and he's being violent towards all of his friends.
Right.
So, although he is kind of unpredictable and demented, he doesn't like to be seen as scary because he doesn't want Thomas to see this side of his creativity as scary. He wants him to integrate darkness into his brand of creativity. He's incredibly honest due to him essentially being just pure, unfiltered thought. He's one of the more recently introduced antagonists of Standard Sides, like I mentioned. He's a chaotic dumb butt. I can't say the word. He's a chaotic idiot, and I love him very much. He's just so entertaining to watch, and he eats deodorant.
He does not eat deodorant.
Yes, he does.
Why does he eat deodorant? That makes no sense.
because he's freaky. Because he's weird.
That's not.
He does all kinds of stuff.
You see this hat? Do you ever see me not wearing this hat? I'm a weirdo. I'm weird.
He just does it because he knows it's disturbing, and because he wants to disturb people.
I'm sorry, but like, I was like so pro Remus, and then you said, and he eats deodorant, and I'm like, no.
He literally says his line is because someone said that he smells. And he said, yes, that's kind of what I was going for. My deodorant's flavor is pickled poo logs. And people are like, what mean flavor? Deodorants don't have flavor. You can't eat deodorant. And he takes a bite out of deodorant and says,
no,
maybe you don't.
No, not pickled poo logs.
So now that we know all of our characters, we need to talk about the ships.
The relationships.
Yes. But also, for some reason, people ship the different aspects of Thomas's personality together.
But isn't it one person?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little weird, but because they're all their own individual characters, it's not that bad. Thomas honestly finds it kind of cute that people ship these characters together. But no, they're not canonically together or romantic. They're just people like to see them that way because they're very different from one another. So it's very easy to be like, you contrast this version of you, so you guys should be together. Some of the main ships or most popular ships are Logicality, which is Logan and Patton, Analogical, which is Logan and Virgil, Prinxiety, which is Roman and Virgil, Moxiety, I don't know how to pronounce that, which is Patton and Virgil, and Duke Seat, which is Remus and Janice. Honorable mentions, Royality, which is Roman and Patton, Prince Seat, which is Roman and Janice. So
I thought we just said Roman and
Remus and Janice.
Okay.
Get it? Because twins. It's confusing. But yeah. So what is important to note though with these ships is that people ship them together because they have very interesting character dynamics. So which I'm gonna go into.
But is there is there a
there's no romantic tension.
Yeah, is there that
no
chemistry there?
No. The only thing remotely romantic that ever happens is Roman and Virgil hold hands once, and they don't seem to enjoy it very much, and that's it.
Okay.
That's about it.
Consent needs to be enthusiastic, guys.
Thomas gets along with all of his sides, aside from Virgil in season 1, Janice up until very recently, and Remus at all. He doesn't seem to like Remus very much. Remus doesn't get along with any of them other than Janice because they're both dark sides.
Baddies.
Patton and Virgil are especially afraid of Remus. Logan is just generally annoyed by him, and Roman is very ashamed of him, seeing Remus as everything he doesn't want to be.
Ooh.
Remus doesn't really seem to care about anybody's opinion, though. He's just kind of doing his thing.
Okay. If he didn't eat deodorant, I would be on his side.
If you ignore that aspect of him,
but he's
very funny.
You told me it, and so I can't.
He's a very funny character. Anyway,
he eats deodorant.
Virgil, having been a dark side before, doesn't really like Janice or Remus at all, and is very cagey when they're around. He doesn't like them being around Thomas or being accepted into the group. In fact, he's very against this because he doesn't trust any of them. Because
he was already a dark side, he knows what they're capable of.
Exactly. Roman and Logan often butt heads a lot because, logic and fancifulness doesn't always coincide very well. However, while they argue frequently, they do respect what each other brings to the table. Most of the time, they have had conflicts where there's been a problem with respect with either of them. Like Logan might not respect what Roman creates because it's not serious enough, or Roman might not always accept or respect Logan's desire for punctuality because it gets in the way of Roman's creative flow. So there are problems with them, but they're not enemies. They're just they just bicker a lot.
They're just annoyed. They're roommates.
Yeah.
We're roommates, guys.
And they were roommates.
Thank God we did not name our podcast.
We almost named our podcast and they were roommates, and that would have been a mistake.
We did better by naming it Technically Not Experts.
Everyone loves Patton, but notably Patton tries to get the more closed off sides to open up more. Those sides being Virgil and Logan. Patton was the first side that Virgil was comfortable with when he was introduced to the other sides, because he just insisted on being extra kind to him all the time and respecting his opinion first before anyone else did. Virgil very much loves Patton and respects his opinion and makes sure to pay attention to his opinion.
#besties.
They're honestly best friends. I love their dynamic. Patton and Logan are incredibly different parts of Thomas, as Thomas's mind versus Thomas's heart. And so they're very contrasting, but Patton often looks to Logan for guidance, as Logan does with Patton. Their dynamic is one of the fans' favorites because of that sort of I don't feel anything versus a, oh my God, you're so cute kind of a dynamic.
It's like the spectrum of all or nothing. Like
it's very much like Logan is closed off, cold, and calculating, and Patton is very much not any of that and tries to get Logan to open up more. And he's pretty receptive to this. Not all the time.
But sometimes,
which people find very cute. Roman and Virgil is another fan favorite. Roman was the last to accept Virgil into the group, mostly because Virgil's constant worry got in the way of Thomas achieving his dreams, which was all Roman really wanted.
He's the actor.
Yeah. However, their banter went from like antagonistic to playful, although it can still be a bit antagonistic. Basically, they just have like this sarcastic, playful banter about them. But they both really like, Virgil really respects what Roman does, even though Roman's like totally extra. But Virgil and Roman respects what Virgil does, even though it might get in the way of what Roman wants to do.
Right.
It's another fan favorite mostly because, again, opposites attract. It's like, can you imagine like the dramatic theater gay versus the emo gay?
I mean, I can't imagine.
Imagine their dynamic. That's essentially what people relate with them.
I could list many types of people who I know are the dramatic emo gay and the dramatic theater gay together. Ooh.
So Patton and Roman kind of egg each other on most of the time because they're both very optimistic and lighthearted sides of Thomas. They both kind of make puns at each other and dad jokes at each other. Roman is constantly creating like creative idioms, and Patton is constantly congratulating him on his creativity.
Good job, son.
Exactly. Logan and Virgil get along pretty well most of the time, as they both serve for Thomas's reason. That is until Virgil becomes unreasonably anxious about something, in which case Logan will be quick to point that out and be like, yeah, calm down, it's not that serious, or calm down, you're being a bit ridiculous, something like that. But they pretty much respect each other and get along pretty well. And Virgil makes fun of how Logan's just kind of strict and a bit of a tight butt. You know what I mean?
Yes. Something retentive.
So now we're going to go into my top 5 favorite episodes that I think you should watch. Considering each episode's conflict is pretty much contained into each one, I have some suggestions as to where to jump in to get interested. The general narrative on Center Sides generally has to do with the overall feelings of the characters carrying on throughout each episode, the effects of the previous episode still carrying weight into the next episodes, but there are still ones that I recommend to anyone who just wants to like get into it because they're very fun to watch.
So can I just like jump right into like a random episode in like season 1 or season 2 and like understand it? Or
yeah,
like...
I think so. I mean, they pretty much like will lay the groundwork for anything you don't understand. I think the things you might understand is like, oh, what are their names? But I just explained them all to you. So if you watch this, if you listen to this, then
if you watch this is impressive.
If you watch this, ow!
Where's the camera? I'm scared.
It's in the fire detector. Or it's smoke detector.
Fire detector.
Yeah, it's just like flames. What?
Oh. Hoot hoot.
So starting at number 5, selfishness versus selflessness. This is episode 27 or season 2, episode 10. Which puts Thomas in a moral dilemma where he has to choose between attending a potential life-changing callback and his friend's wedding.
Ooh.
Janice, or is known as Deceit at the time, because this was before he revealed his name, puts Thomas in a trial setting where he wants to prove that Thomas cares more about himself than his friends, which will then prove that he's not a perfect, ideal person that the other sides believe he is. This is a consistent theme in the recent episodes in this new season is Thomas a good person? Is Thomas as perfect of a person as he thinks he is? And does that make him a bad person?
Interesting.
So I really like this episode because of the trial setting and because it kind of is one of the first episodes to really dig deep into Thomas's personality and really determine whether or not defining good and bad is as simple as people like to make it out to be. This is like one of the first instances of that.
I'm like thinking about it, and I honestly am like, ooh, if I was in that situation where I'm either invited to a wedding or I could have like a
life-changing opportunity.
A life-changing career opportunity, which means money is involved. And I'm like, I like going back and forth because I'm like, how good is the friend?
So number 4 on my list is learning new things about ourselves, which is episode 25 or season 2, episode 8, where Thomas questions why he felt bad when an old friend questioned the legitimacy of his job as a YouTuber. For some reason, the question stuck, and he feels stuck trying to figure out why he feels bad about his work when there's so many things to be grateful for. The sides, apart from Logan at the beginning, takes on the image of puppets to better help Thomas discover why he thinks the way he does and find the root of the problem.
I love puppets.
They hire a guy to make pretty awesome puppets for this episode, and a guy to puppeteer them. So they have a professional puppeteer.
You know, I was once a puppeteer.
Oh yeah, and for like Riley's show, huh?
Yeah, guys.
Go watch Imaginary.
Please watch Imaginary when it comes out. Shout out to Riley and shout out to me in my hand who was a puppet.
You did like an Ubi moment.
It was just the audience can't see this. It was just me talking with my hand in a sock.
One of the puppets is a sock puppet. Virgil is a sock puppet. Roman is like a traditional Muppet looking puppet, and like a person looking puppet. Right. Patton's puppet is like a paper bag.
Oh, I do love a good paper bag puppet.
And Logan does eventually become a puppet, and he becomes like a robot.
Oh.
Yeah. So number 3 on my list is making some changes, which is episode 14. Or season 1, episode 14, where Thomas feels stressed about all of the change happening in his life, and he feels he's taking on too much. He feels he's taking too much time away from his friends. To help with this, decides shapeshift into his friends to help him come to the conclusion that his friends will always be with him no matter what. I love this episode specifically because I love the idea of his friends coming in to help him with this episode, and basically his friends pretending to be various sides of Thomas. And also it's just fun to see his friends in a video with him. I love when his friends are integrated into videos with him. Right. And I also love when the sides shapeshift into something.
We're pro shape shifting.
So this was just like a really fun thing. Also, all of his friends are like actors or were like former theater kids. So it's fun to see them put their
we get it. They're
test.
Gay.
Yeah, they're all gay. So
they're all gay.
I love that episode. It's so fun. It's one of my favorites. Second on my list is Accepting Anxiety Part 2. Can anxiety be good?
What happened to Part 1?
Part 1 is basically just the setup for Part 2, which is when they realize that Thomas is without his anxiety, and they are realizing that they need anxiety because he fulfills very important roles for Thomas. And
like
that's
safety?
Basically like safety, like worry, like making sure that he's doing things on time, or making sure he locks his door, making sure he's getting ready in the morning and looking presentable. Various things that anxiety does play into. So in this episode, which is episode 17, season 1, episode 17, where Thomas and his sides travel to Virgil's room, after he goes missing, where they try to convince him to come back and be a part of the main group. This is the episode where all the sides accept Virgil as part of the group, and Virgil admits that he feels he's been more of a bad influence on Thomas than a helpful one, wherein he completes his redemption arc.
Redemption.
This is one of my favorites because all the sides, because they're in Virgil's room, they all get more and more anxious, and they gradually get more dark eyeshadow under their eyes, looking like Virgil.
So what you're saying is anytime I spend with you is basically the same thing as someone else.
What, you get anxious when you're around me?
No, I get the dark eyeshadow. I just, as we talk, it gets more purple eyeshadow.
Like they just basically they become more and more stressed out, and I think it's a very funny episode. I also think it's very illuminating about how you don't have to be afraid of your anxiety, even if it can be harmful to your life. Virgil is not harmful to Thomas all the time, and as long as you have sort of a hold on your anxiety and understand where you get anxious, it doesn't always have to be this terrifying thing. And I think that's a pretty good message, and I really liked it. My number 1 favorite episode of Sander Sides thus far.
Drum roll.
Dealing with Intrusive Thoughts, episode 28, season 2, episode 11.
I do have intrusive thoughts.
This is the first appearance of Remus. Thomas has a sleepless night full of bizarre, intrusive thoughts that disturb himself, Patton, and Virgil. He has to face this new dark side of his and come to terms with the fact that his intrusive thoughts are not representative of who he is as a person, but rather are just one of the many random things that his mind may generate. And he also comes to understand why he has intrusive thoughts, which relates a lot to his like Catholic guilt and the way he sees creativity. And it's a very helpful episode for me. There's a musical number in it, which I love. There's also a musical number in the puppet one, Learning New Things About Ourselves, both of which are great. Learning New Things About Ourselves was actually not the song in that one. The puppet one was nominated for a streaming.
Really?
Yes.
Oliver keeps on telling me to watch specifically like the intrusive thoughts ones.
It's so good. It was so helpful for me, and I often reference it when talking to my friends about intrusive thoughts or like various like parts of our personality that we might be a little ashamed of. It's like, don't. Everyone has these things. Like, everyone thinks of things that you're like, oh my God, why did I think that? That's awful.
What if I
disgusting.
kicked a baby?
Yeah, like you just think of random things. And I love this episode so much because not only is Remus so funny and so fun, but he's just like, it's just a very good lesson. And I really liked it. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of Roman in this because Remus kind of takes his place. But
well, they're twins.
They're not very much alike. But Remus is so fun that it kind of makes up for it.
You heard it here first. All twins are exactly the same as each other.
Okay, so that's all that I have. So what are your thoughts?
It's honestly doesn't sound as childish as I thought it was going to be. And it doesn't sound as like.
Before we went on the air, you were very judgmental over the fact that this is a 30-year-old man making content for all ages.
Yeah, for children.
It's not for kids exclusively, but kids can watch this.
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was like pandering specifically to kids, like in a weird way with like emotions. And I'm like,
he makes sure that everything's like relatively family friendly,
right?
Because he is aware that kids watch his stuff, and he makes a lot of content that kids would be attracted to, but he is not exclusively making things for kids.
Well, it's actually kind of sold me on the idea. I think I'm going to watch the Dealing with Intrusive Thoughts one because like every single person who watches Standard Sides has been like, Elliot, this is the one for you.
It's so good, man. It's such a good show. Like, people make fun of me for liking this, but honestly, it's just
nerd.
It's fun. It's wholesome. It makes me feel good.
Bully noise.
I've had a very bad couple of days, and writing this episode was just like kind of a beacon of light. I was just reminded of just this nice series that I love.
That is the one good thing about the show. I really like getting into something that I'm really passionate about and being like, ooh.
It just makes you feel better, you know?
Yeah.
Talking about something that you like. Okay. Well,
I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
So that's everything we've got. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. Tune in next week to find out whether we actually become experts on anything ever, legally. And
please make sure to follow us on social media at our Instagram at Technically Not Experts. Also follow us individually on Instagram at Daryn-ish and at Elliot Kelliot. Also make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we upload all of the recordings of each of our episodes, including this one. We have just recently uploaded last week's video, which is about the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So make sure to check that out.
It was incredible. Whoever was talking was so handsome and attractive.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
We will be back here next Monday and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.